Hi everyone, I'm so excited to be back with another episode of She Means Business. I'm your host, Shika Balani, the founder of Chic Studio, and today I want to talk about something that has been on my mind for a very long time. This is the podcast where we talk about breaking barriers, defying expectations, and kind of the podcast where I can share real stories behind entrepreneurship and success. Today's episode is a very personal one, something that's been on my mind for a long time. We're diving into the idea of being the boss entrepreneur that your parents always wanted you to marry. But this isn't just about building a business, it's about unlearning outdated mindsets, redefining what it means to be a successful daughter, and embracing the mutual respect in relationships. So let's talk about how I went from following a traditional path to building my own and why I'm so passionate about changing the narrative for women everywhere. If you guys follow me on LinkedIn, you know I'm very passionate about speaking about women in business, defying expectations, and kind of learning the new path to what a woman in business actually means. That doesn't mean you have to be an entrepreneur. It could also just mean being a boss lady in your own terms and in your everyday life. So let's talk about, way back when I was growing up in an Indian traditional household where, like many daughters, I was taught to strive for excellence in everything. Some of you guys might not believe this, but I was horrible at school. I used to be the worst performing. I used to be the worst in any extracurricular activity, any sports, you name it. I was so bad up until grade 6. And I think something just switched in my brain, right? Like I was just like, okay, if I want to get into a good university, if I want to get into, anything professional, sports, whatever, I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but I was just like, if I want to be good at anything and get a good job and secure a good future, then I need to really change the way I am and really put effort into school. So that's exactly what I did. And I'm sure my teachers were very concerned at one point, but then I managed to turn things around and I actually started to ace everything. I actually put in effort and I became really good at, the sports that I was playing. I was really good at, the exams that I took. Everything just started to change. But obviously it took time. It took a lot of effort on my part to start learning and understanding things again. But you name it, I had to ace it. And that's always been how I've viewed things. Like I am my own biggest competition. And that's how it should be for everyone, I believe. I hate the idea of comparing ourselves to counterparts because that's like the worst way to view things. So the way I say is that I'm competing with who I am today. So I want to be a better person tomorrow. And that's the way I saw it back then. And that's the way I try to see it today. Obviously, it's very difficult nowadays. Like the social media, there's, you see the news all the time about people succeeding, women succeeding, men succeeding. It's hard not to compare. But anyways, just to sum things up, I loved the challenge and I thrived on it. But looking back, I often wonder, what was all that hard work for? Was it so that I could secure a great job only to give it up as soon as I got married? Was it so that I could impress a future husband or in-laws about how accomplished I was, only to let go of the ambitions if the family wanted me to? And that is still the case until right now. Like there's so many families up until right now that give their kids the best education, that give their kids the best lives. And then for what? Like for them to just abide by the rules of their partners and their new in-laws? Is that how it's supposed to be? This unspoken expectation was always clear, right? No matter how hard I worked, my ultimate role was to mold myself around someone else's life. So, luckily this is not the case for me, but I was always put under that impression and started, and I know it's still the case for many people right now. Obviously my partner is super supportive, and so are my in-laws. They love what I do, and they love the amount of energy that I put into things that I love, including my work. But that's not the case for everyone. Not everyone is lucky. If I had gotten, arranged married or whatever, like, I'm sure things would be extremely different for me right now. This old school mindset isn't about career versus family. It's about how society views a woman's purpose. The narrative goes as follows. Your education is a backup plan. Your ambitions are secondary, and your identity is tied to the roles you fulfill as a daughter, a wife, or a mother. And look, I'm not here to disrespect anyone's choices. If being a homemaker is what fulfills you, that's amazing. But what I'm saying is this: it should always be a choice, not an expectation forced upon you. Growing up, I didn't have female mentors to look up to. My inspiration came from watching my father and grandfather build their businesses from the ground up. But I always felt that this undertone was there, that as a daughter, I wouldn't get the same opportunities to prove myself. It wasn't easy to unlearn those beliefs, but let me tell you, it's liberating when you do. And fast forward to today, I'm so glad my reality is far from what I expected. When I got married, I moved halfway across the world to support my husband's career. And guess what? He does the same for me. He respects my hard work, my drive, and my dreams. He celebrates my wins as if they were his own. And that's what I call mutual respect in relationships. And that's something that you have to kind of learn to kind of have between yourself and your partner. And marriage for me isn't about sacrificing my identity or my ambitions. It's about building a life where both partners are able to lift each other up, because that respect didn't happen overnight. It's something we built together, and it's something I stand firm on because I know my worth. I was very adamant on what I wanted, and I'm stubborn. I'm a Taurus, but yeah, eventually I got what I wanted, right? I want to use this platform to talk about the bigger picture. The old school mindset that still weighs on so many daughters, women globally. We're taught to be extremely high achievers, but only as long as it fits into this mold that society had for us. And when we want to step out of that mold, when we say we want to build empires instead of following someone else's, people question us. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your ambition. You're not too much for wanting more out of life. And you're not selfish for wanting to prioritize your dreams. For me, becoming an entrepreneur wasn't just about starting a business. It was about proving to myself and others that I could create something meaningful, that I could be a kind of woman who sets her own terms and lives her life unapologetically. So, to all the daughters out there who've been told to dream within limits, let me tell you this. Dream without limits, firstly. Secondly, build something so big and so bold that you're surprised by what you've accomplished. Number 3, know that your worth isn't tied to someone else's expectations of you. It's defined by what you choose to create for yourself. And for parents listening, let's challenge these outdated beliefs. Let's teach our daughters to be self-sufficient, not as a backup plan, but as a primary plan. Let's raise women who don't have to choose between being ambitious and being valued. As I wrap up, I want to leave you with this kind of thought, if you might say so yourself. Being the boss isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you were capable all along. It's about building a life so fulfilling that it inspires others to question their own limiting beliefs. And it's about showing that daughters are just capable of creating legacies as sons. So thank you all for tuning into this extremely short episode of She Means Business. If this resonates with you at all, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, you have the power to be the boss of your own story. Of course, it is your life. So you need to be in the driver's seat of your own life. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep building, and keep owning your own path.